This special meeting was called by the Parks and Rec Committee, which consists of Councilwoman Jill Kramer, Chairperson, Councilman Linda Lippman, and Councilman Dave Kerwin, for the purpose to discuss the possible passage of ordinance 154, 2019, and ordinance number 158, 2019. Roll call.
Kramer. Present. Cunningham.
Present.
Gregg.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Irwin.
Here.
Lewis.
Present.
Littman.
Here.
Manson.
Here.
And Starrett.
Here.
Roll call of 9 present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All present and accounted for. We have in attendance with us tonight the following city officials: Mayor Kathy Catazero Perry, Safety Service Director Mark Sylvester, Law Director Andrew Cascazza, Chief Engineer Jason Popeil, Economic Development Director David Maley, Parks and Rec Director Steve Pedro, Golf Course Director Carrie Lowry, and Health Department Commissioner Terry Archett. Anyone from the audience that would like to come forward and speak on the topics that appear on tonight's agenda are welcome to do that at this point. If you do, come forward, state your name, address, topic you wish to discuss, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move into introduction of ordinances. Ordinance number 154, 2019.
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Massillon, Ohio, to enter into an agreement between Massillon City School District Board of Education, the City of Massillon, Ohio, and the Park and Recreation Department with regard to the tennis courts at Reservoir Park and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kramer?
Thank you, Madam President. We have the Director of Parks here tonight to answer any questions that you may have. This was brought up at the previous council meeting, and there was some questions regarding the agreement that we have in place in front of us. So, Mr. Cooper, so you can answer any questions.
Hi. First, I want to apologize for not being here last week. I thought everything was cleared up the week before. That's why I didn't come. I know there were some questions, and I think Mrs. Lippman, you may have had a question. I don't remember what it was. If you'd like to.
Well, I think it was a concern regarding whether there would be any notification or signage that would be either posted or published so that the residents would know that during the season of the high school team or their practices that they would not be able to use the facilities.
Sure. I can tell you in the past there was not, but there will be a sign posted with the schedule. It'll start in March through the end of, I think, middle of May for the boys' season, and then again put a new schedule up in the fall, starting in the middle of August to the end of September, early October. But there will be a sign put up with their schedule, practice and game schedules, on the 3 openings of the tennis courts, so the public will know.
We could just envision there being more interest in the courts because they'd be brand new.
Sure.
Would there be any publication maybe in your rec newsletter or your brochure that you have, or even in the newspaper, or something that would let the public know? I just didn't want there to be any confusion or animosity with the public if they should go to use the facilities.
I can tell you from my experience, and I did talk to a lot of people about this. Obviously, for about the last 40 years, this unwritten agreement was there, and they had first rights to those courts. Haven't heard of any problems. There may have been kids on the court, or someone may have been on the court when the team got there to practice, but I'm assuming they just walked off the court. You know, they knew they were there. But we will publish that in our brochure, our semi-annual guide that we put out. We'll put the information in there as well, so the public does know. I think with the schedules on the fence, it'll be very helpful. As long as those schedules don't get taken off the fence, we'll work on that as well. I know there was another council member that had a question. I can't remember who it was.
Councilman Gray?
I don't think I had a question, but I just now thought of it. So, other than the high school teams, is there any other formal use of those courts, like by leagues or by the rec department for specific leagues?
There are no other leagues tennis camp in the summer. We're trying to promote it more, because if those of you don't know, we have those courts, we also have courts at Wampler Park and at Franklin Park. Those are very, not used very much. But we are promoting tennis in the summer, especially for younger kids to get involved. But there's no other tournaments or anything like that. As of right now, as Ms. Lippman stated, there may be more interest in the future. And I can tell you the weekends are probably the best time. Hopefully, if we are approached by anybody, we do have that time on the weekends, even during the season. There aren't many tennis matches on the weekends that are scheduled. But we'll try to do whatever we can to promote those sports for our citizens and for outside groups as well.
Another question. I know something that's becoming big lately is pickleball. Is there any contemplation for use of courts for that?
Yes. The courts at Reservoir, no. I don't want to change those. We've talked about redoing the courts over at Wampler, and also lining them for pickleball as well. Even if we don't redo them next year, we are going to line them for pickleball. We have about, if you come to the rec center on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, about 11 o'clock. Wednesday's the biggest day. There were, I think, 42 people there to play pickleball. We have 3 indoor courses we have taped off at the gym. And in the summertime, I would like to keep, they go to Barberton. There's a couple places, Barberton, Canton. I want to keep in Massillon. We will at least line those courts next year, if not get them redone completely with tennis and pickleball. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Lippman.
What was the thought process in stating that this contract is a 20-year contract?
I approached the school board members that I knew when we talked about doing this. Didn't think we were going to get anything. And they were kind of delighted about it, that we were going to redo them. And I can tell you the first offer, or the first amount was $20,000. And within a month, Superintendent Salvino called us and said, we're going to put in 50 towards the whole project. They were just going to do the lighting and some different things around the courts, but they then decided to give us $50,000 for a $199,000 project. Again, it was just an ask. And then we talked about this. Their attorney wanted to have some type of written agreement. I told them we have an unwritten agreement that they always have first rights. So I talked to Law Director Scazza. They came up with this agreement, and I don't see an issue with it. I mean, they wanted to put a number of years on it, and 20 years, down the road, I'm assuming there's not going to be a problem when that comes up to renew. Not to say that, we're not asking them for another, I wouldn't imagine that we're going to ask them for $50,000 in 20 years. Depending on if the courts need done, maybe they will. Maybe there could be another agreement like that. But I don't foresee any problems with that 20 years.
Andrea, can I ask you why this wouldn't just be indefinitely, or did you request that there be a timeline? Yes, please.
I wouldn't advise in any contract entering into it in perpetuity. And although I don't know the revised code section off the top of my head, I don't think we have the ability to do that for the revised code. I did not come up with a 20-year term. As Steve said, I don't know if that was what was negotiated necessarily, but that is what the Department of Court agreed to. But to answer your question, no, we can't enter into agreements.
That are in that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else for Steve?
Let me add to that. They actually came to the school board. Their attorney actually was the one to initiate that a-year term, whether it was 10, 20, 30, and they just came up with 20. Again, I don't think there's going to be an issue. Maybe 20 years down the road they need redone and they chip in again. So maybe that's the advantage of having an agreement.
Thank you.
Mr. Pedro, are the parks, Wampler and, Franklin, are they playable now?
They're playable. I can tell you I haven't seen anybody play much tennis at either one. I do go out and look at what's going on in the summertime, especially with the parks. They're there. Maybe if we redid them, there would be more people playing, but I can tell you pickleball is a very big thing right now. So I'm going to
account right now is in 2020.
Not in 2020.
Anyone else? Thank you. Councilman Kramer?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we waive the rules requiring 3 readings and bring ordinance number 154-2019 forward for a vote.
Second by Councilwoman Littman. Roll call for suspension.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Littman,
Yes.
Manson,
Yes.
Sterrett,
Yes.
and Kramer.
Yes.
9 yes for suspension.
And for passage.
Gregg,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Littman,
Yes.
Manson,
Yes.
Sterrett,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
and Cunningham.
Yes.
9 yes for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 154, 2019 is passed. Ordinance number 158, 2019.
An ordinance making certain appropriations from the unappropriated balance of the 1234 Park and Recreation Fund for the Legends of Massillon Golf Course for the year ending December 31st, 2019, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lewis?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Pedro? Sorry, can't call Councilman again.
I figured.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We just haven't had any conversations, so I mentioned to talk to you. So do you want to go ahead and talk about this?
Yes. You can see the appropriation there, $5,076.06 is for the capital lease, which we underestimated. When we did the budget at the end of 2018, we hadn't signed the new golf cart lease yet. There were some changes that were made. It was more than what we thought it was going to be. So we didn't budget, we underestimated that budget amount for the lease. And then the health insurance, one of our employees had a child and not family plan. And the sales tax has gone up because the revenue has increased, which is a good thing and a bad thing, I guess, sometimes. So there are 7,000 more rounds this year than last year and more leagues this year. So that's for the sales tax.
Does anybody have any questions or discussion? All right. So then I make a motion that we suspend the rules requiring the reading for ordinance number 158-2019 forward for a vote.
Second by Councilman Manson. Roll call for suspension. Harris,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Littman,
Yes.
Manson,
Yes.
Sterrett,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
and Gregg.
Yes.
9 yes for suspension.
and for passage.
Irwin,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Littman,
Yes.
Manson,
Yes.
Sterrett,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
and Harris.
Yes.
9 yes for passage.
Madam Clerk, ordinance number 158, 2019 has passed. At this point in time, we should be adjourning, but I have to call on Councilman Cunningham, because I don't want to jinx anything.
Thank you, Madam President. Is this for the shout out?
Yes, it
This
is.
is a shout out for the wonderful Massillon Tigers and their awesome victory over Akron Bowman on Friday night. And I did see on social media today, if I've got this correct, on highschoolfootball.com, we're ranked 24th in the nation, which is kind of cool. Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
I am now. Microphone.
Alright. So we're at the top, community development. I have one new one and one old one. The one I have from last week, we give first reading, is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Massillon, Ohio, to enter into an agreement with Stark Medical Specialties to provide an economic development inducement grant for building renovations and moving costs for the property located at 2458 Wingate East, Massillon, Ohio, declaring an emergency. Anybody have any questions or comments?
We're going to make this go 3 readings,
Yes,
so it's coming up in a second.
this is second. Or it will be coming up for second, yes.
All right, I guess that's my, I'm just a little bit more, so I just want more time for the process.
emails today with the ethic, or this week, I don't know, with ethics opinions from AG's office. I just wanted to point that out, because I know some of us, we got emails from the list of ethics opinions from the AG's office. I just know some of us would have had problems getting our emails.
I did get it.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Does anybody need a copy? I need a copy.
Okay. Looks like Jill, you're confused. Did you have that email?
Oh, I'm not confused. I did read these. And, these aren't, did everybody have a chance to read these? Because number one, they came this morning, November 25th. This email was sent to our economic director November 18th. So at the last minute, we have these tonight to discuss. And that's kind of one of my concerns. The last minute, it is sent to us Monday morning to discuss tonight. And I really think we need to give this information to us prior than 9 a.m. Monday morning in order to have an educated discussion. That's my first statement. My second statement, that it's kind of useless in my opinion because it's an advisory opinion, and it states that, and I'll read it to those that have not done this. Because most of the events you have described have already occurred and you are asking about the actions of persons other than yourself, the Commission cannot provide you with an advisory opinion. Number one, we went and asked the Ethics Commission, I don't know if Dave, I kind of sent an email asking him, did he send a request, did he make a phone call? But what we have in question cannot be requested for an opinion by our economic director or the law director, if I understand this letter correctly. So I would like someone to elaborate on that, because the person in question that we are having this conversation would be the mayor abstaining from signing this based on a family member. So if I'm reading this correctly, she needed to reach out to the Ethics Commission and request an opinion. I may be incorrect with understanding the letter, but someone like to correct me, or?
Has everybody read this other than me? Is there anybody who hasn't read it? What was mailed out this morning? Diane, could I have a copy, please? I haven't read it.
Can I go on and just
Sure.
a couple sentences that I thought was
Diane, may I have her copy as well?
important.
I have it with me, but-
The purpose of an Ethics Commission advisory opinion is to provide guidance to a public official or employee upon which he can rely before engaging in an action that may be prohibited by the ethics law. For that reason, the Commission cannot render an advisory opinion for one person about the activities of another. The Commission can render an advisory opinion only in response to a question that involves the prospective conduct of a person who requests the opinion. So that's kind of where I just feel this is useless to me because of the process. I may be incorrect, so I would like the law director to elaborate on this response.
I want to see this, read it before we even start talking about it. If you remember, I did say that we wanted a strong opinion from our law department before we act on this.
Well, this is just one. Now, this one, I have a roll. Sabrina, I have a roll. I think I'm number 4. So, I'll do this one.
How many pages is it?
And then you can-
There's 2 opinions.
Yeah, we
They're
had
both pages, so-
an email from Karen King, and then we had 2 letters, examples of feedback that was provided previously to questions similar to this.
All right, I guess we can have law director come up and start on it. She said she's reviewed it, and she's got an opinion.
Okay. Let me back up 1 second and, just for clarification's sake, Councilwoman Sarah, these are not actually AG opinions, these are opinions that come from the Ethics Commission. So, just for clarification's sake. So with regard to this contract, okay, let's just back up a second, or this economic inducement grant. It's viewed, and if you read those, it would fall under the classification of a public contract. Okay, those type of inducement grants, or the one opinion in front of you, I believe, is referencing like a CRA type of tax incentive, tax abatement type of scheme. So those are public contracts. Okay. So with regard to any ethical considerations, with regard to this body entering into that type of public contract, okay, my understanding of those two opinions is that this body potentially has no ethical concerns with regard to those opinions entering into it. Now, as individual public office holders, as individual public officials, you may run into ethical considerations based on your own personal situation with regard to an individual or the public contract that comes before you. That's a situation that we are in with this particular grant and with our mayor. So, Ms. Creamer, you are correct. You can call on the Ethics Commission for questions, guidance, because they do issue formal opinions, and short of requesting a formal opinion, and I don't know the time frame that it takes for them to actually issue that type of formal opinion or informal opinion, when you call, they do refer you or they will send you out these type of opinions that have been dealt with in the past. So that's a situation that has come about and why those two opinions before you, and the one says, you know, they won't issue a formal or informal opinion to anyone other than the person in which that situation applies to. So you are correct in when you say that. So the opinion, two opinions were sent to you. Okay? One pertains particularly to a public official that has potentially an interest in the public contract before them due to a familiar type of situation. And again, in that opinion, it was a husband and wife type of situation. So with regard to that opinion, you know, I can't necessarily discuss what advice I have given to the mayor because I am bound by some attorney-client privileges, but I would say that that is up to the mayor to determine, based on that opinion, if she feels that her activities are within the confines of the ethical statutes. But as far as this body's ability to vote on this public contract, unless you have any individual ethical concerns, then I would say you are free to ponder the merits of the grant before you and vote accordingly. That other opinion does pertain to, not a husband and wife type of situation. That particular opinion discusses sort of an attorney-client situation that arises between a public official and somebody who's coming before them and considering that. So again, a different type of situation, but that's more of that attorney-client, business type of relationship with regard to public officials entering into public contracts or entering into any type of situation where you are exercising your power as an elected official or a public official in making determinations, and if there should be any refusals with that.
Do I have any questions?
So am I understanding you to say that you do not believe that there is any ethical violation for us to be considering and potentially approving this economic development grant?
Based on the opinions that were sent with regard to each one of you voting on this, I think you need, and if you have questions, because you're concerned about casting a vote based on any ethical considerations you have individually, I think that then we need to discuss that. But I think as far as this body, as a collective body, as a city council, voting on this public contract, I don't see any ethical obligations as city council entering into this public contract with this group. But like I said, individually, there may be ethical considerations that you could discuss with me. Based on your personal situation or your personal relationship, if any, exists with the applicant.
Anybody have a comment? Sounds to me like she just answered it for us, at least as far as me individually, I don't have an ethical conflict here with this, correct? I mean, they're not related to me, so I don't have a problem.
If that's what you're,
Right?
yes,
Yes.
well, I don't know that, but
Based
if
on
that's
these
what you're
opinions,
telling me.
yes. Okay. Anybody want to comment on that? All right. Nobody wants to comment? I'm going to say the same thing I said before. We'll let it go 3 readings, and then we can vote. I have no problem with this personally. As I said before, I had a serious problem with Alton Hospital and the agreement we made with them, and I still do. But this is just the opposite. The Alton Hospital did not want to pay the taxes. These people are going to move into the city. It's not one individual doctor's office. There are several doctors, I believe, in this office, so he just happens to be under the umbrella of this group. And I personally have no problem, and I'm going to be recommending it 3rd reading that probably that we approve it, but it'll be coming up for 2nd reading. If anybody needs to get an opinion further than this, then talk to the law director and get it cleared up. All right. What did this have? Okay. Next one I have here is a new one.
Microphone, please.
Request. Request is hereby made to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with Stark County Regional Planning Commission for Massillon Housing Department. This annual agreement is adopted by the city of Massillon for professional services provided by the Stark County Regional Planning Commission for the city's housing programs, owner-occupied housing rehabilitation, and homeowner assistance. Professional services include environmental and historic reviews, initial home inspections, home rehab estimates with write-ups of projects, inspections during rehab, and final inspections of completed rehabs. The term of this agreement is January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. Compensation is $15,000 a year. Amount is the same as 2017, 18, 19, and 20. And request is Samantha Walters, who wants to comment on this.
Good evening. Samantha Walters does apologize. She is attending a parent meeting at the schools tonight, so she could not be here. Like was stated, this is an agreement that we have done in the past. It is for the inspection of anything we do in the housing rehabs, from roofing to full rehabs to when we inspect also for first-time home buyer. It encompasses initial inspection, all the paperwork and write-ups from those inspections, the cost estimate, the cost of the inspections through progress reports, and also the final inspection. This is done through two inspectors through the Stark County Regional Planning, and it has been the constant at $15,000 from 2017, 18, 19, and it'll be the same in 20. Any questions?
Seeing none, move on. And we'll get that signed, and we'll get it on the agenda for Monday. And then I have one more here, I almost forgot. Back when we tabled the ordinances on the pay raises for the elected officials in the city, there were two ordinances. I went back to the law director and asked her to merge those into one, and that's exactly what she did for me. And I'd like to get this signed by the people on my committee, and we'll put this back on the agenda starting next Monday. It pretty much covers the exact same, there's no differences from what we had, only everything's on, all of them are on one ordinance. And I prefer to act on it that way. Any questions or comments? Yes.
I just want to say that I look forward to just putting the issue to rest, so putting it on the agenda, I have no issue with that. And obviously, it doesn't matter if I did or not, but and amending and whatnot, but I look forward to a decision coming forward.
And if people are concerned about having 3 readings on this, we can give it a reading Monday. We need to have a special meeting on the next committee meeting, would be a second reading, and then we could have the 3rd reading at the second meeting in December. So we go through going 3 readings.
Paul, I have a question.
Yes,
Was there another request for legislation for that ordinance, or are we using?
this will be it. The
You can't
ordinance,
use the ordinance, you have to have a request.
well, there'll be an ordinance
And I'll get-
request. It'll be
okay.
coming from my committee.
And then I'll get verbals tomorrow.
We'll get it signed tonight.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, this is committee, no, I'm sorry. We're looking at this committee as a whole.
Right. But I'll have to do a request for legislation first.
Read it.
Yes.
Anybody
Okay.
like to see that, we'll do it that way. And if we have to, we can bring those other 2 ordinances up and vote them down to get them off the books if we have to. If somebody feels that we should do that, I don't know. We've done that, sometimes we just let them go. So we can discuss that if we have to, but there'll be a request
Okay.
for the whole,
Okay.
and then we'll go until we get 2 people to sign at least.
Question.
Yes?
So is your goal to have that completed prior to the end of the year?
Yes. And it's the same ordinance as those 2, okay, just they're combined together to try to eliminate that problem. And it's very conservative. We're not talking about some kind of big raise, $50,000 or anything like that. We're talking about a cost of living raise. Anything else? Feel free, I mean.
No, just not.
You know, it isn't like we just brought this up. We've been talking about it since spring, and it was on the agenda. And there was more than one person that asked me to table that. I will just say that. There was more than one person that asked me to table that, but we were talking about it. We'd have voted on them already. This makes it easier for everybody, fine and dandy. Okay, thank you. Next one. Next up. It's on the list. There it is. Environmental.
Thank you, guests. I have one piece here, legislation for, we prepare legislation to authorize the Director of Public Service and Safety to enter in a memorandum of understanding MOU agreement with the Stark County Soil and Water Conservation District, CSWCD, for technical assistance. While EPA Stormwater Phase 2 regulation requires that large, medium-sized cities must obtain and maintain an NPDES permit for municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4S. A stormwater management program must be developed to reduce stormwater pollution, which some various elements for such demonstrable progress must be achieved each year. This MOU allows CSWCD to regulate, inspect, and educate for EPA compliance for corporation limits as required by the Ohio EPA under a 5-year agreement. I believe this is renewal. The current one expires 12/31/2019. J.C., going to speak on this? Sure.
Yes, you are correct. This is a renewal contract with our member of understanding with Soil and Water. They assist us with the 6 requirements that we need to do every year to keep our good standing with EPA in regards to the MS4 program, which is your stormwater pollution control and sediment. We do an annual report every year that consists of 6 measures, and they assist us in meeting all 6 measures annually. This is a renewal for a 5-year contract, because it does expire at the end of this year, which is why Stark Soil and Water is requested an emergency passage.
Any more questions? All right, over here, Roger. That's all I have, Paul.
Okay. Health, welfare, and building regulations.
No, I do not have anything at this time.
Okay, Parks and Rec.
I have nothing.
Recent fires, Jason.
Police department still hasn't come forth with anything new on the table ordinance statement.
Public utilities,
Nothing at this time.
rules and courts, civil service.
Yes, thank you. I do have an item left over. We gave first reading last week to ordinance number 156, 2019. Ordinance amending section 2D occupational list, class and title, city officials, law director of ordinance number 94-1994, ordinance number 215-1995, and ordinance 127-1997. By repealing section 2D occupational list of class titles, city officials, law director, and enacting a new section 2D occupational list of class titles, city officials, law director in the city of Massillon, Ohio, declaring emergency. Further, in section 1, it states that city council of the city of Massillon, Ohio hereby finds that it's necessary to amend section 2D occupational list of class titles, city officials, law director of ordinance numbers 94/1994, 251/1995, and 127-1997, and enacting a new section 2D occupational list of class titles, city officials, law director in the city of Massillon, Ohio, indicating that the base rate effective January 1st, 2020 and thereafter for the law director shall be $85,000.00 and shall be classified as a full-time position. So basically what we're talking about is changing the current situation with the law director's position from part-time to full-time. And obviously giving a commensurate increase, basically because the law department has taken over some additional workload with other communities, handling law services for other communities, but that's the gist behind the legislation. Anybody have any questions? Mr. Lewis?
I just wanted to point out that I've spoken with the auditor in the past week, and it may have mentioned that the auditor didn't sign this particular piece of legislation. And the reason behind that is the current budget that we're going to discuss more tonight, she certified what she certified, and then the budget director worked off of known knowledge at the time. And though we've been talking about this, it's not a certainty, so it wasn't something that could necessarily be budgeted for. So we already worked within certification for the 2020 budget. So if this were to pass, what we as a council would have to do in January is appropriate from the unappropriated balance, also what's known as the carryover, the difference to that line item in order to fund the position. Just so you know what we're talking about, it would be coming out of the carryover in an added in right away.
I believe it was mentioned in our prior conversations that it was approximately 35,000 of the carryover that would have to be allocated for this to be funded. Is that correct?
Carryover? Well, that's the increase from the approximate increase from the current salary, yes.
So that's all we're talking about, the multi-million-dollar carryover, taking 35,000 of it and
Right.
allocating it to this line item.
Correct.
Okay.
However, additional monies have come in from contracts with other communities that we did not service before that covers that amount.
So is it necessary to allocate from the unappropriated? Excuse me?
Those other funds go directly into the general.
Oh, okay. It's just, paying for it itself. Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Terry?
And I will say, we've talked about, is this necessary? Is this something that we need the law director to be full-time? And I think just tonight, we've asked the law department to research at least 3 or 4 things for us. And I know sometimes we tend to want things immediately, and quit as fast as possible. As Jill pointed out, sometimes we get things last minute, and I think that may help alleviate the burden of, the law department if we have a law director in the office every day of the week rather than 1 to 2 days a week, where we can get opinions and other things from the law department much quicker and more efficient at this point, because the law director will have more time to actually work on those items.
Councilman Manson?
Yes, I'd like to clear up, how did this thing come forward? You were talking about this, now and then you said you thought it should go to rules and courts or something like that. But you said it's been talked about, but there was never anything certain. This is where I do have it on this thing, but there are a lot of cities that still have part-time law directors, and some of them are larger than us. Now, we're taking the information just from the person that does the work. I negotiated enough contracts and stuff that I know many people just want to raise, they don't care whether they deserve it or not. So it's somebody else's job to study this. We either negotiated them where I worked, or we had a committee that studied the raises and then made recommendations for changes. It did not come from the department heads themselves, and that's what I believe is wrong here. This should have been on the ballot. This should be handled by, I don't even know how this is normally handled. I'm assuming that it's okay for council to do it, but are there cases where they are voted on? I mean, there are a lot of attorneys in this town who would have looked at this as a full-time job, paying $85,000, they may have jumped on it and run. Now, that's where this is wrong. Take it back, study it, do something with it in 4 years or whenever. I don't know when I don't know if If the individuals involved weren't actually making the decision on it, maybe even raise something in the middle of a term, I'm not sure. I think that's something that should be looked at. But it bothers me the way this thing came to council. This is long. I believe that this thing belongs in Mike's committee. There should have been a study done on this to determine what's done. I see people all the time that want more money. Very few people, this ordinance that we've been talking about for the elected officials, usually when I heard from somebody, it was about themselves. They didn't talk about anybody else. They didn't look at anybody else. It was about themselves. And when some people, when it comes down to money, I learned a long time ago, they can't be trusted either handling the money or making the decisions how it's spent if they have their own influence. And I believe this is unethical the way it's moving forward.
Councilman Harris?
How did we come upon the number of $85,000 a year?
Based upon current salary plus the additional revenue from the additional communities that we are now servicing.
Is Massillon on this list of local? I have a couple questions for the library. How many full-time employees do you have?
I apologize, I went through this in my budget presentation a couple weeks ago. Currently, I have 4 attorneys that are full-time. I have 2 prosecutors, I have 2 courtroom prosecutors, I have a domestic violence prosecutor whose salary is primarily paid for through a grant. I have 1 position that has been open, but I am looking to hire that position here soon.
So that would be 4 attorneys total, or 4 plus 1 on paper?
5. That
So
would be
5 total.
5. And they are primarily responsible for handling mostly the criminal side of the law department. The law director is part-time, and then I have 1 other part-time attorney that helps me with civil matters.
Support staff?
I have 2 full-time assistants and 1 part-time, and then multiple interns as they may be available. Currently, I do have 1 third-year law intern, and she works, I think, a couple hours a week.
One more time. 2?
2 full-time administrative assistants and 1 part-time administrative assistant office worker.
Okay, that's all I have.
If I may,
You may.
I would be remiss if I didn't say, and I understand everything you said, Paul, and I'm not here to debate that, but, I would just like to say that shortly after I took office, I feel that I was very clear to this body that after seeing the needs of that office, that my feeling was what's best for this city was the law director position be full-time. And like I said, I feel like I've been very vocal about that well before the election this year, sort of ad nauseum to this body and actually to you individually when you would come to me and ask me for opinions or we would talk about things. I feel that I expressed that, way before petitions were due this year, that I felt that for the betterment of the city, and I feel that I tried to make it very clear that it's not about me as a person, it's not about me and my personal situation, it's about what I feel the city needs out of the law department. And so I just want to make that clear. And like I said, I'm not here to debate it with you, Paul. I am just trying to, again, make it known that it's not about me. It's not about me as a person or, like I said, what I need personally. It's what I think the city needs. And I think that overseeing all that staff, having a budget of well over $400,000, I do think you need an elected official who is here more than just in this status to oversee that department, handle the administrative matters of the office, and handle the needs of this body, of the administration, of all the department heads who may have a legal issue that comes out.
Yes.
I was just gonna say that according to those numbers, as opposed to all the other communities, you know, Canton is substantially bigger than us. That's the only one that kind of stands out to me that doesn't kind of make sense even why they're on this list. If you take Canton out, she oversees more than any other community on this list and does it for part-time money. And if she only wants $85,000 a year, we should give it to her and run.
Thank you. Councilman Lewis?
My concern isn't the cost or the merit of the position. However, I do hear Mr. Manson's concerns. I do think there's some potential merit there. So I'm wondering if there's maybe one or two ways we can fix that. And really, is there a way we just take the emergency language off of the legislation, leaving it open for referendum? And if there is such a body that feels so inclined and so passionate, then they would have a avenue in order to take action. However, I think the problem we run into is I think we either have to like vote on it Monday in order to leave the window before the new year, or we would have to see if the law director could research if we passed it later in December and left it open for no emergency language, would it still be able to go into effect at that date because it's really elected term? Does that make sense? But I mean, that might be one way to say, no, we understand the timing is not great, but the door is open. The other thing I would also say is that there is an attorney that would be so inclined. I would encourage them to come to a meeting and make their voice and their opinion known.
Councilman Creamer?
I do have some reservations about this. This is an elected position, and there have been some discussion, which I will agree with some of your statements, law directors Gaza. But I think in order to move forward, I feel like all of a sudden it's a rush again. We've got to get this done. Moving into the new year, this should have been brought to us the fourth quarter of 2018. And we should have had discussions regarding this position. A status change from part-time to full-time is very significant. It's not something that I overlook. It's very significant. So I feel that if we had discussions regarding that, then going into the election for 2019 primary, those people that choose to take out petitions had that opportunity knowing it was full-time. Not after the fact. We just had the election, and now all of a sudden, we're to vote if it's going to be from part-time to full-time and increase the salary. And I don't think that's right. I don't understand the need to get this completed, moving into it. Let's have more discussions. The election's in 2 more years. It's a part-time position. 4 more years. It's a part-time position. A petition was taken out for a part-time position, not a full-time position, a part-time position. If that was significant, we should have had conversations prior to that. So that's where I have really a lot of reservations about this status change from part-time to full-time. Very quickly, end of the year, here it is, here's the money, and put it up for to approval now. Once again, it's just a rush, and I don't like this.
Councilman Lewis?
I understand those concerns as well, but I'd be careful because the way I translate that logic, though, would mean we can't pass the pay raises that I know many people are in favor of, because at the election time, those pay raises were not part of the deal. Even though they were openly discussed, they were also tabled. So, I mean, that logic
What
is
pay raises are you referencing?
the ones that Mr. Mason brought up for all the council, we offered them there, because then people could, you can make that same argument, right?
Yeah,
You
I
guys
agree,
gave
I
yourself
will.
a pay raise after the election, so.
I will, yes, that's exactly.
So that would be my concern, that that becomes a slippery slope all of a sudden. You can't adjust anything, and it's a valid point, I'm not gonna argue that, you know, but just kind of want to make sure we keep the whole scope out there.
Councilman Levin?
I would just say that I think that being protected legally in today's society is even more important than it has ever been. There are, anyone can sue anyone for anything. And it's important to me, anyway, as an individual on this council, to make sure that I have an avenue to go to if I have legal concerns about something that's in legislation or something that is affecting us as council members. Second issue, I think, is that when it comes to time spent on a job, typically you do not know how much time it's going to take. It can be estimated that in the past there's been X number of hours that have been spent to do this job sufficiently. Until you're actually doing that job, and I will say this job as well, it appears to be, you sit in council an hour, maybe less, every Monday night, and that's what you're getting paid for. When really, as every one of us sitting here knows that that's not the case. You spend a lot of time reviewing even the information that we get, let alone the information that is given to Ms. Gaza in that position. I guess I look at it as a whole, not a person, not a timing issue. Do we need, we as a city, no matter what time of the year it is, no matter if it's an election year, non-election year, what does that job require? And I believe that it requires a full-time commitment. Again, whether it's at this time of year or 4 years from now or 4 years ago, I think it requires a full-time attention. Thank you.
Councilman Mansson?
As I said, I had an ethical problem with it. Also, there's some on this list, nobody even explained to us last week when we got this thing, what was PT was for and FT and all that stuff. I'm not sure, even after we had this discussion about the number of employees, how many full-time people are there in that department? Everybody know just what it is? 2, or is it 3, or is it
5 full-time attorneys, 5 full-time administrative assistants, or 2 full-time administrative assistants.
Okay. So there's 5 full-time? I thought I heard 4 the first
4,
time.
and she's hiring 1.
There's 4 full-time attorneys and 1 open position. Or they're currently being hired, but it's open. So there's 5 attorney
Is
positions.
the law director herself part of this
No.
mix?
2 full-time administrative assistants, 1 part-time administrative assistant, and 1 part-time attorney.
Say it again.
4 with 1 empty space, full-time attorneys, so that's 5, basically. 2 full-time administrative assistants, 1 part-time administrative assistant, and 1 part-time attorney.
It's like I said, that's why I brought that up before the election, as far as everybody. And I still think this is unethical to do this. And also, I've been questioned a couple of times over the last year and a half about this, and every time I said that I was not in favor of extending that. I made that clear. Even our auditor wanted to know when we were talking budget. And I made that clear that I was not in favor of that. I worked a lot with people judging their workloads and their outputs, and I have learned that there are many, many people that believe they work hard, but a whole lot of people around them really don't. They don't have any respect for that. And I don't believe that you should be making a decision on something like this with the input from the law director. I think it should be go out there and study it and find out what's going on. I mean, the first one up here says part-time, $61,000, 21,000 people in Lions. Here's part-time in Dublin, 41,000 population. Part-time in Fairborn, 32,300. That's almost exactly the same as us. I just think it's wrong to bring it up after that. I think it should be looked at, acted on for the next election cycle. Ms. Rose? And I have no problem if you're really feeling that what we're doing with these raises, we'll pull them back. I brought them up before the election, though, and that was purposeful. And I can't believe that people don't have enough courage to act on this stuff. You have to push it back out of the way and then act on it and hope everybody forgets it by the next time there's an election. Ms. Rose?
My question would be more to Ms. Derrick. Is there a trade, like, publication or platform for attorneys in Stark County that we can make this better known so that they really, really feel inclined, they would come in and tell us?
We have a Stark County Bar Association publication that is given out once a month, where the Bar Association gives news in the county and possible openings and positions in the county. But I'm pretty sure most attorneys know specifically what elected official attorney positions there are, because there's very few.
I'm just trying to be creative and think how we make sure that anyone that will be qualified is aware of this change and have an opportunity to come and see objections if they so desire.
I think any attorney well, first off, it would have to be an attorney living within the city of Massillon, not just within the jurisdiction, which even lessens it even more. And you could easily probably do a search on the Supreme Court of Ohio website and find out how many attorneys actually even live in Massillon. Because my guess is it's very few.
Ms. Kramer?
And with that, with what Ms. Spirit said, most attorneys know what positions are out there and what they are. So once again, Massillon's law director position is part-time. So that's kind of where I think that we take this slow, because it is a status change from part-time to full-time.
I will also state that most attorneys also know what government attorneys pay, and there's a significant amount of attorneys that are not interested in these positions because of the low pay. As Mr. Harris said, take it and run, because there's a significant amount of attorneys that do work other than government work that make a significant amount more money than what we're talking about on the table.
I just want to point out, regarding ethics, we each have to answer that question for ourselves, but we were given an opinion that it is not unethical to have a post-election pre-term change to a position. So just put that out there. Mr. Harris?
I wanted to add one more thing. If government bodies don't start raising the pay of government attorneys, there won't be many government attorneys to choose from. For example, just in quick math, a private practice attorney makes $200 an hour. Okay? I know this from experience. I've paid many of them being a business owner. At $200 an hour, that's 8 hours of work that a private practice attorney will have to do per week to make what the law director here would make full-time for a year.
Okay. Anything else? All right, that was given first reading. We'll give it second reading on Monday. That is all I have.
Nothing.
Finance
is from finance, and I'm assuming it's coming to us because of the contract. I know it originally came through environmental a few years back. But essentially, Kimball wants to amend the contract due to unforeseen market conditions that negatively affect the value of recyclable commodities worldwide. And essentially, they would increase the rate by 60 cents over what the agreed upon 2020 increase would have been. So what that does is in 2020, the rate was to go to $12.01 a month for unlimited service for our citizens, and it would instead go to $12.61. And somewhere in here, I'm sorry, in the administration, who would be the person we call forward to speak to this? Ms. Sylvester?
Good evening. Both requests for legislations that are before you are both in regards to Kimball. And the first request is actually the amendment. And as you can see there, and probably you're well aware, in the times today worldwide, there's not the revenue or value of the recyclables as there used to be at one time. Kimball actually at this point is having a hard time to actually sell off the recyclables, especially because of all of what's happened with the recycling bans over in China. So that's why they requested to add 60 cents per month, which would be a total of $7.20 per year. And then the second request for legislation is actually the renewal that comes to this body each year. There was a 5-year contract put in place, and then we are in the 3rd year of that contract. According to that contract, there are 2 pieces in there that change the dollar amount. The first piece is the Consumer's Price Index, the CPI, that's a part of it. We do have to pay any increase that comes on that on an annual basis. As well as this year, there's an additional charge because of the fuel tax increase. I did attach with the documentations here, the original contracts, that's what's on the back, and I highlighted for you so that you could see that they do have a right to pass that tax on to us. So then when you look at the costs that they do break down, you will notice that I did not have them include the 60 cents from the amendment, because if that doesn't pass, then these rates on the renewal will just stay as they are. So if you pass the, in other words, I didn't just assume that we should put that 60 cents on there, because that is not a part of the renewal. That is a complete amendment. So you see the prices that are here. So to total it all up for you, the 60 cents is what they're asking to be amended at $7.20 per year increase. And then the Consumer Price Index and the tax would be an additional 25 cents. So in total, if the amendment is made, the renewal is there, that would be a total of 85 cents per month. And then that works out to basically $10.20 per year.
So the 1261 is not accurate?
Well, that's what they put on the amendment, but prior, they did not have the tax piece onto that. They had given this to me before they did everything with the tax. So
it's 1261 plus either one. Cool. Is that correct?
1261 plus 4 cents, the 4 cents tax.
The 4 cents tax, maybe 1261.
That's correct.
And we just have to reflect 1265 in the legislation.
If you want to, but again, I didn't know, this is an amendment, so if we didn't want to, if you vote no that you don't want the 60 cents in there, then it would strictly go by this piece of renewal.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So in this piece, the second piece that we haven't talked about technically yet, says that it's $12.05 a month unlimited services, and that's including the fuel taxes, correct?
That's correct.
And then we have 60 cents we're adding on,
If-
possibly,
if-
if we pass it.
They-
There's no forward
They
coming
did,
up.
before they did the tax.
Would they issue another amendment letter then? 'Cause I mean, the way,
If you want that, I mean, I could have them go back and do it, but again, you know, the prices are here on the renewal, and if you accept the 60 cents, then
And I think the concern is, if we choose not to amend the contract, then
it doesn't matter.
it doesn't
That's
matter,
correct.
and we would just go with the second ordinance, which they have the right to increase the rates anyways, under the second ordinance. The first ordinance is all up to us.
Yeah.
So that's why I think they should stay separate, because the city council says, no, we don't want an increase just because you're having a hardship.
Yeah, that's not what I was questioning. I'm looking in here,
What's happening?
I don't know. I'm looking in here and I do see the 60 cents on the bottom of the first page, which is fine. Then when you go to that second page of their amendment, they specifically quote it as 1261. And I just want to make sure that if I accept an amendment that says 1261, it ends up being 1265, we don't have an issue. That's all I was concerned about, is like, do we need to make sure this letter accurately states what the new rate is going to be?
Well, I don't think the letter would be part of the legislation, technically. When we write the legislation, the letter was just their proposal, and then they added the additional tax increase, and I think they technically should be voted on separately.
And then I will just remind everyone, with our mics, once they're called home, don't hit the button, because we keep turning each other off. While people are talking, it's probably making Diane go nuts. So, Ms. Kramer.
My question is, have we reached out to any other vendor and compared these prices because of this 60-cent increase or amendment? Or is other vendors seeing, requesting the same? Or is this just Kimball?
So, I'll give one of the historical, just so you know that 2012, when we did this, the going rate in the city of Massillon was $18.50 a month. We negotiated a 5-year contract with a 1-year option for 5 years at the city's request with Kimball. So I would assume we could market it, but I don't think we're going to beat it. If in 2012 the going rate was $18.50, we're still $6 a month cheaper than what people were paying in 2012. And I know Republic struggled with this because then they had a price match in order to be able to continue. It hit, I think it hit all the local solid waste companies pretty hard because they had to obviously lower rates to compete. Ms. Sarah?
I think it might be beneficial for some people if somebody from Kimball with the increase.
We can make that request. I plan on giving this, I mean, is there any reason that it would need to be completed by January 1? We give it 3 readings that would be passed the first meeting of 2020.
you're going to go ahead and do the renewal, but you want them to come in and speak about the recycle piece of it, because the renewal does go into effect on January 1.
Yeah, we can pass the renewal and then do
Renewal,
the
and
amendment.
have them come in and speak about the other piece of it, sure. Yeah, Julie's talked about, she actually even has her number included in there, I believe, I told her, yeah, she does have contact information in there as well. If you want to call her, you're more than welcome to do that. I told her to put her contact information, and she did on that form as well. So if you want to contact her.
Does anyone on finance committee have any opposition to bringing the renewal up for a vote, then leaving the amendment go for reading? The renewal of the contract, put that up for a vote on Monday, but would leave the amendment of price open for a couple more readings. That way at least get the contract cleared away. Ms. Kramer?
The fuel tax, we stated that that's with the new contract, not the amendment. It's
That's
with
the
the renewal.
renewal, yes.
And that's something new.
Well, the gas
Fuel
tax.
tax.
it was passed this past year. They have a right according to that contract, which I copied and highlighted the sections there. They have a right to pass any mandated tax on that on to the consumer.
Yeah, because you would hear about gas taxes a couple years back when your price per gallon was much higher than what it's currently at. And that's kind of why it's concerning to me that they're throwing in that, because that's something that's, gas isn't that high right now. You know, it's not $3.54 when you see that on.
This is the gas tax that was just passed by the state of Ohio.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sykes. Next one, please prepare legislation authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety, Massillon, Ohio, to enter into a one-year contract with Logic for Fire Department and Police Department dispatch services and declaring an emergency. Ms. Vester.
Questions? I don't believe, I'm sure you're all very familiar with it. It's year to year. These are the dollar amounts that are in the current budget that is proposed in front of you. If you do read through the contract, it was established and through the Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 167. The fire calls are, as listed here, are per call. Goes by the number of calls. So there is an increase from last year because, as the fire chief spoke of, the number of calls that they're increased at this particular time. And the police section of it goes by population that they take off of the census reports.
Thank you. Next one, please prepare an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service Safety of the City of Madison to enter into a renewal with Mutual Ohio for health insurance. There is a rate increase of 2.8% in this. The carrier renewal will be assigned as soon as possible for a time of transition for city employees. Any discussion or questions? Next, request legislation authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety, for the City of Madison to amend Ordinance 134 salary wage schedules for unclassified employees who provide reclassified employees. And this is to allow pay increases to take effect the first pay period of the 2020. I'm assuming this is the 2% that we've already budgeted for and discussed earlier in the year. So this is allowing all that to take place. For the record, the safety service director affirmed my question about the 2%. That was in my.
Thank you.
The next piece, please prepare legislation authorizing the law director to enter into a contract with the Village of Navarre for the Massillon Law Department to provide prosecutorial and legal services to the Village of Navarre. This is going to be from January 1, 2020 through December 31st. It's a one-year agreement for the amount of $14,000. I believe this is the third such agreement that the law director has secured for the city this year. And I believe this would take somewhere around $42,000 in new contracts that she has secured for her service, her department services for the city of Madison. So we've done this for Brewster, Beach City, I believe, already. Not Beach City, Brewster and Knuckle. And request please release funds to meet payroll and rent billing expectations. This is coming from Terry Gardner at the Health Department. This is needed to pay out vacation time for unexpected resignation and rent due on December 26th for 2020. Rent paid by December 26th will avoid a late charge of $250. So we're just taking the 1235 fund, $3,766.67, and covers those costs. So are there any questions in regards to that? In the 1235 fund is specifically labeled as Community Health and Services Fund, so it's the enterprise fund of that particular department. Did you stay here this full time, just to this? On Wednesday? Ms. Sargent said this is interesting for the record, Diane.
I'm going to ask a question, if you don't mind.
Yes, Ms. Sargent, please come forward.
It's just pertaining to the rent of your building. The contract that you currently have in place, it is through what time period?
Month to month.
It is a month to month.
Yes.
Is there any further conversation about getting a more permanent contract or looking elsewhere for a better suited spot?
Not right now.
Not at this time.
No.
Thank you.
Next, proposed legislation to appropriate $49,999 and appropriate $1433 balance to the CDOT line to purchase a new mower for parks. This was passed 5-0. Roll call. We have Mr. Pedro here. He tell us all about this new mower. You can be a guy if you want.
I'm sorry?
Speak.
Oh, all right. Our wide area mower, which is 10 feet wide, decided that its life is about done with us. We searched John Deere, Jacobson, Toro, and a couple other smaller mowers. We're getting an $86,000 mower for $49,000 through the state contract, and then a trade-in on the vehicle, on the mower that we have now. They'll piece it out for parts. Does it have those estimates there with you, or just the?
Just $49,000.
Yeah, it's, I can, you know, the list on this is 86,000, we got it down to 49. So it's a 10-foot wide mower.
Ms. Lippman?
Are there additional safety features that are part of this new mower? I guess I'm thinking roll bars and.
All of our mowers have ROPS on them, yes.
They do.
And yes.
Are there any additional safety features on this mower that perhaps our other mowers do not currently have?
No, well, I won't say no. All of our mowers have emergency shut off if your butt comes off the seat. They all have roll bars on them.
Did you get more than one estimate?
3.
Oh,
We
okay,
get
that's-
John Deere, Jacobson, Toro. We'd like to go with Jacobson.
Oh,
This one by far is the most economical one, but as I said, it's an $86,000 mower. We're getting it for $49,000, and the John Deere mower came in at $52,000, but it's not as big as this mower. It's a similar mower, but it doesn't have all of the. It's not wide. That's the biggest thing. This is like we call it the bat wing. It's got the wings on the sides.
where will this mower be used,
It's used everywhere.
including the reservoir?
Not well, except the reservoir. It's not a big enough area. It is a big enough area, but we have the smaller mowers to go up there. We use this big mower mostly on the west side, actually. Wampler Park, Community Park, and Lincoln Park, and Oakville Park. There's a lot of area over there. That mower is primarily on the west side. We need to bring it to the east side. And one time we had the park department had 2 of those. Maybe in the future, we may look at that again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next piece is coming from future fair legislation, research transfer from the 2019 appropriations from the street construction and R fund for the year ending 12/31/19, taking $7,500 out of street gas and oil, putting it into safety utilities. And this is to cover utility bills for the department for the year end of the year. reducing gas and oil by 3,000, putting it into electric. I'm just gonna go through these, just holler at me if you want me to stop if you have a question. Park and Recreation is going to ask to reduce unemployment by 4,400, hospital item by 4,053, salary and recreation by 2,033, putting into salary for the PR director by 4,700, salary senior center 810, and workers' comp 4,976. I got a question.
No, I didn't give myself a raise.
So what's up?
I can tell you from last year's budget, when we submitted last year's budget, the step raises were not voted upon at the time by Parks and Rec, as we were told to do that separately. So the 2% raise and the step raise was not voted upon when the budget was submitted. Okay.
Has since then been voted all upon, and your board is in approval.
Yes, yes, they did approve the 2% raise and the scheduled step raises.
Okay, do you know when they approved that?
For this year or last year?
For the 20.
It was December
Of
of 18, yes, yes. We weren't aware, well, it wasn't official, and I may be right, I believe the 2% raise especially wasn't, it was determined in November, does that sound right? It was after we turned our budget in, so then I'm
I
sorry.
believe it was in September.
But they didn't vote on ours until after, let me back up, I do remember now, because I came for my budget to council, and I was asked by council to, make sure we had to split our budgets, or get our budget approved separately, rather than council, our board approved our budget first. You recall that? Yeah.
Any questions? I only had to use the rigmarole. I know that's been a hot button item.
I don't have a problem with that.
All right, the domestic violence section was to reduce PRS by $5 and salary increase by $5. 3 on budget. Police department wants to reduce PRS police clerks by $20 and salary increase in police clerks by $20. 3 line budget. Also in the police department, police comp paid reduced by $20,000, overtime paid by $20,000, gas and oil by $10,000, supplies and materials will be increased by that $50,000, and that's to realign the budget. The last section I have for tonight is board budget discussion. I will go ahead and call this forum forward.
Excuse me,
Yes.
non-concur committee as a whole?
Yeah, we have another one for our codified ordinances.
Yeah.
That would be,
Oh,
sorry. I mean, technically, it's still finance committee, way, but that's okay.
I have the original, the one you signed this afternoon. Yes, sir.
Okay. Please prepare
Mike.
legislation. Pardon? Somebody say something?
Microphone.
Please prepare legislation to approve the current replacement pages of the Massillon codified ordinances. That's it. I have one question. Back when we were talking about the law director, you referenced, we had a ruling on the ethics of, was that changing the term, or was that the pay?
It was a pay increase.
The pay.
Yeah, it's for the city of Canton.
That's, I read it, and that's all I see is we talk about pay. I don't see anything about changing the term.
Or you need the classification.
Term.
Part-time to full-time?
Yeah.
Right, no, it's pay.
All right, anybody have anything else?
Unfortunately, our budget director, that's me, wastewater director could not be here tonight. He did say that if anybody had any questions, feel free to give him a call, and he would be more than happy to talk anything through with you on his budget.
You would tell me that we're not asking anything, so publicly speak.
Okay, I will let him know that. I think we want to talk a little bit about the engineering budget. So I don't know if you want me to ask questions or if you just want me to give you a rough overview.
Go ahead and give us a rough.
Okay. The engineering budget, it does not have that many line items actually. Just always to keep in mind that the engineers are not, their budget is not what funds our streets and our catch basins and things like that. That comes out of wastewater and streets. They do have a small portion of their budget that does go to the overall funding of a few of the repairs. That falls in the servicing contracts. I would imagine that would be a concern for what you would want to know what's listed. So I can tell you what's listed, and then if you want to go in a little bit more detail, Jason Bill's here today, so he'll help us out. I'm the numbers person, and he's the more in-depth person. So that's $415,000, and that includes our utility inspections, ADA compliance, Spring Hill Settlement Drainage Phase 2, St. Andrews Estates Drainage Phase 2. Oh, I'm sorry, Spring Hill was Phase 1. And then catch basins and storm sewers. There is also funds set aside for emergency repairs. So, does anybody have any questions? You want us to go a little bit more detail in those?
Okay, you lost me. What page are you on? Because I was on page 5 under the engineer department.
The engineering department is on page 5, so
So,
services and contracts.
right, so it was reduced by $40,000.
There is one contract that was in there last year that is not in there this year. So they only contract out certain amounts from year to year. Like I said, they're very specific on what they do. So I'd have to research to know exactly which one of those came out. But that is the difference in the 5 or 6 things that I've listed from year over year that they completed it as of last year or this year, the year we're in.
What were those things that you listed again? Spring Hill, catch basins?
Spring Hill Settlement Drainage Phase 3, St. Andrews Estate Drainage Phase 2, and then miscellaneous catch basins or storm sewers. It's more of an emergency repair, so those things that come up during the course of the year that we don't necessarily budget for. There's some ADA compliance in that, as well as utility inspections.
Any other questions regarding the engineering budget? Like you said, this isn't the streets, this isn't our repairs, this is general engineering. The $158,960, that is for our employees, the salary, that is the employees of the city? But
Yes.
not necessarily our contract.
No, that is the actual employee of the city, and also that's same thing holds fast for hospitalization and births and Medicaid care. So those are for our city employees. The travel and seminars and schooling went up a little bit because there is some required schooling for them this year. So that shows us a $5,000 increase.
Is that our engineers?
Yes, yeah, that would be Greg or Jason, or Fred, yes.
All right, so if there's no more discussion,
Any other
Aaron?
We're good, okay. And then now we have Parks and Rec, so we have Steve here to speak with us.
This all be to our page. Someone already have it?
13,
Thank you.
bottom 13. again, there's going to be some increases. We are down one supervisor at the rec center. Been debating whether to hire that person, fill that role with a front desk supervisor. We had a couple other supervisors sharing those roles, and it has worked out. But it would be a lot better if we brought in someone. But I mean, if there are any other lines, I'm going to have the service and contract line to see the increase there. We have a lot of projects that we'd like to complete next year, or at least get started. Our maintenance building really needs a new roof. If we're going to stay there, we need to put a roof on there. And that's a high dollar. Looking at about $100,000 if we get a brand new roof. We have a couple estimates on repair of that roof. They're about $20,000 to $25,000. So there's some different things there. A lot of our buildings, as you all know, are old, very old. And I don't mean very, when I say 40 years, that's not very old, but for a building, that's pretty old. We need a lot of maintenance in our buildings throughout our parks.
One second.
Yes.
I have a question for Ms. Kramer here in a second. But my follow-up question to you is going to be, your budget increase is $276,000 over last year. So I'm going to hear more about these projects in a second. So, Ms. Kramer, were you in attendance at the Parks and Rec meetings when the board approved this budget?
Yes, I was.
Was it a 5-0 vote?
Yes, it was.
Well, I only asked that because I have heard some questions about, and I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but the salary is a 10% increase in less than 2 years or 2 years. For you personally.
I understand what you're
And
saying.
some people were questioning the validity of the rapidity, how rapid of an increase. Now I understand there's a step increase in there. I just wanted to make sure that the board was 5-0.
But regarding some of the salary concerns, Steve, do you want to?
I think that, and I don't know.
The salary piece, it was not a 5-0 count, but the budget, I believe it was, but they split the park and rec salary piece.
The budget
And
was,
the budget salary piece.
yeah, what they did, it was a 3-2 vote for the step
Yes.
raises
Yes, correct.
To everyone or to you specifically?
to Parks and Rec, not mine specifically. In our meeting, that wasn't brought out. If it was brought out elsewhere, I'm not aware of that. There were some questions, and some of our board members had questions on the step raises. Why do we do step raises? They won't do merit raises. Well, and this is what I went to the auditor. I've talked to other board members. I don't determine what the raise is. The pay scale determines what the raise is, if they're going to approve those raises. And that was where the dispute was. It was why do we have to give, why can I give, say the step raise is $300, why can't I give this person a $1,000 raise? And my answer to that is, as director, it's in writing on what those raises could be. If you don't approve the step raises, I'm fine with that. But the argument was that we all work for the city, and why would everybody else in the city get their step raises approved and not just a couple people?
That's all I had. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't going to get the board in opposition to something. I want to make sure they're passing what we're passing.
Yeah, they did pass the budget, but I will say it was a 3-2 vote on step raises.
But at the end of the day, everybody agreed to this budget.
Yes.
With that step raises in.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So now $276,000 worth of projects.
Well, I can tell you, like I said, if we, the roof on the maintenance building is going to be upwards of 100, 150. And then, we need playground equipment, we have buildings that are deteriorating. That's not I might not spend all $220,000, but, I want to have it available. There's a lot that needs done, as you know, take a ride through the parks. We haven't decided, we haven't written down, we don't have every project ready that we're going to do.
Bathrooms at Lincoln Park sound like a great idea.
I'm sorry?
Bathrooms at Lincoln Park sound like a great
Yeah, I can tell you, and I'll tell you everybody this, and this is public news. A pavilion with restrooms at Lincoln Park is a priority. Now, we have a lot
I
of
there
work
all
to
the
do.
time. I don't think that would be just golf. Just that far off.
Yeah.
But anyway, The reason maintenance building at?
Maintenance building is the old state hospital maintenance building. Yeah. Yes.
I would just like to clarify, you said pavilion and restrooms provided by your project budget? Is that what you're looking for?
My goal is to build a pavilion with restrooms at Lincoln Park.
Okay, the only reason I ask is, of course, you and I have had a
Yes.
conversation regarding Massillon Rotary's involvement with that
Yes.
as well. So perhaps if that goes further in Parks and Rec, that perhaps you could either involve us or
Absolutely.
that we could collaborate together. You know that I've had a conversation with the business next to Lincoln Park as well, as far as providing a strip of land to the city so that a pavilion could potentially be built in the upper part of that park versus back in the hole, I'll call it, due to potential vandalism that could occur back there, lighting and so forth would be so much more difficult, as well as running lines across the road.
The biggest thing is the sewer. And that's obviously, as anybody, building something like that. I mean, we could put a pavilion anywhere. We need to be strategic on where we need one down there. And the sewer, the cost of the water and the waste lines is the biggest cost.
Isn't there already one there that's not being used?
No, there's well, that's on the north side, or I'm sorry, on the west side. If you go down 17th Street, go north on 17th, there's no building on the left side there. If we go now, we're not ADA accessible. If we go in that area, it's a slope. The old pavilion, if some of you may not, I don't remember where the old one was. I know where it was, I don't remember being there, up on the hill. So that was definitely not accessible. My idea, and we've spoken down, if you look at the parking lot, on the north side of the parking lot, there's a flat area there that we're looking at. It makes a whole lot of sense, and it does not flood on a big rain. That was our first concern when we talk about that. That does not flood in that area.
And then you have the other one up on Linden right there. I think that's Linden.
Yeah, there's a small pavilion on
The old one.
yeah. That's a nice little pavilion. We got a new roof on that a couple years ago, but it's just not big enough. I can tell you there are 2 regional disc golf tournaments down there that may have 300 or 400 people there at one time. And it's a mess with parking and, we have a porta pot there. So, much needed.
Any other questions regarding projects or anything else in the Parks Department? This is not including the golf course.
Does not include the golf course.
That's pretty good.
Any plans to improve the tennis courts and basketball courts at Wampler? I had a couple concerns forwarded to you regarding Wampler.
I plan on improving, we're going to start in the spring with our basketball courts. South Citgo, Montclair, and Community Park, getting them resurfaced. And then we'll go from there. Probably there used to be a basketball court at Lincoln Park. Some of you might not even know. There's a piece of asphalt on the west side. We've been talking about that. And to resurface it and throw a couple hoops up, I think, we'll see. I think it's a good idea. But yeah, we want to resurface all of our basketball courts within the next 2 years. They need it. They're a lot that haven't been done in quite some time. If you get a chance, take a look at Shriver Park. We did that this summer, and we did a great job. It's really nice. And the tennis courts, as I mentioned earlier, I haven't decided what to do with the tennis courts as a whole at Montclair, but they will also have pickleball lines. Whether we resurface them and put both pickleball and tennis, or leave it the way it is and just put pickleball lines on.
All right, let's hear about the recreation platform, the golf course.
Come on up here.
I put together a little spreadsheet for everybody to look at, kind of make things a lot easier. So we're looking at 2019 budget. The original budget was started at $1,049,000. We had to put money into the budget for operations and also improvements this year because we've been so busy. So this year alone, the budget went to $1,128,000. Now, my proposed 2020 budget was $1,165,000. But I was given $1,061,000. So there's a $103,000 difference. Reason how I came up with my budget is I went and looked at the revenue that we made this year. I picked up 3 more additional leagues on top of the 14 that we currently have from Tam, plus 3 new outings for next year. So I roughly came up with revenue for next year of $1,228,000, and that's on the conservative side of things. So we picked up 17 more leagues, which is 316 more golfers. We've increased rounds from 35,000 to 42,000 within 1 year. That's 7,300 more rounds of golf. Our revenue in 1 year went from $996,000 to $1,181,000 year to date. That was as of November 15th. And we have an operating profit year to date of $163,000. So I'm asking for your help, or anybody's help, to try and give me the $103,000 that I asked for the budget for next year, just to operate along.
I think I will start with, you have the auditor's budget at $1,061,625. The budget we have in front of us is $1,080,078. So there's $20,000 difference there. Now, and yeah, I guess, the other thing is in my opinion, I'm sorry, that's the auditor. If the auditor only certifies that amount, then I don't know if we can really make them trust me. Is there any, so the budget director has been told no. Sorry.
So my question is, how are you going to provide services to those 17 additional leagues and those 3 additional outings when your budget is less than $100,000 than what you use this year? That's kind of, where is this money going to come from?
Where it's going to come from is my cash carryover. So let's say I have $130,000 from this year. I'm going to have to put $100,000 of that cash carryover into the just for operations, which only leaves me $30,000 to make improvements, which is not much at all. As of right now, we need a new kitchen floor. That's $12,500. So that is taken away from any improvements on the golf course. Our air conditioner's broke. That's $2,500 right off the bat. We have 2 carts that are broken down. That's going to come up to about $3,000. So it starts to add up quickly before we make any improvements to the golf course.
The other option is going to be, they would have to come and ask for an appropriation from the unappropriated balance. So once you get a few months in, you have to come in and say, I need $25,000 for this or that, and you can afford it. That's the only way I can go to get around, Mr. Mason.
Yeah, I have a little problem with the auditor telling us what to spend. I have a problem with them telling the park board, we can make them autonomous. It's your job to dig into this, and if they're looking, and they feel that revenue in their mind is going to be higher for the next year, then they should have a right to build a budget like that. I don't like that the auditor gave us a number on our budget, leaving out the carryover. Right? She said she's leaving the carryover out. Now already I know that the mayor's thinking about spending it. I know that there are people on this board that are looking at the spending it. I mean, this is, it should just be budgeted in the beginning, if it's going to be there. This isn't the auditor's job to do that. it's her job to pay the bills and keep track of everything. But it's up to council and it's up to the board of parks to determine what and how they spend their money.
Absolutely, but she certifies the money that she's the one that gives us the certificate that certifies how much money we will have to spend. And her certificate is only for 22 million. We can't put a budget together for 23.
And I know Ed, you stated she's always conservative. And I guess that's my question is, when has our revenue not met our operating budget? I guess that's,
For the city or for the
for the budgets. That's when she states she's conservative, when, giving this budget, when have we not met that?
recent years, I believe they have.
Since I've been here, we have. I'd have to look, actually, I gave you guys a little bit of history here. Let's see here.
My problem is the auditor of the city. She doesn't know how to run a golf course. I think we have people who know how to run a golf course. We have a board that's more directly in tune with it than what the auditor's office is. Now, I don't think the auditor, if you and I, if we think that there's going to be, we're going to have just as much revenue this year as we had last year. I don't think that the auditor can go out and certify a number less than that unless she thinks we have a recession coming. Usually, the auditors in the past would look at inflation and what inflation was, and usually they built that percentage into their budget every year. I know Bill Hammond's office did it every single year. Or if they saw revenue shrinking, they would react to that.
I'd be more than happy to invite the auditor, and she can explain her certification number once again to us. She can explain specifically where she came to the number she did. And she can also explain her legal authority in that certificate. But I will say the end around is how you've been operating thus far, and that is you come back in January, February, and you say, look, I got the carryover, your board approves it, we approve it, and everything's good.
Just less money for us to use for improvements. Because see, I'm gonna need that. And see, the weather, weather plays a part in the business, but we manage the golf course in that way. If it's bad weather, we send the staff home. So if it's bad weather, your budget comes down. I've been in the business for 29 years, so I would think they would, I know what I'm doing, I just wish they had a little bit more,
Oh, I totally understand where you're coming from, and this is where I think where your ability is meeting the bureaucratic process. The money just doesn't come into a bank account where you can say, oh, look, we have an influx. No, it goes into a general fund that has to go through 2 boards to approve and then come back to you 30 days later, right? And that's the headache they deal with.
right, correct. Yeah, it's hard to run a business that way.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Just look.
I guess I would think that the carryover from the entire Parks and Rec would be where you would first be looking for additional funds for your budget versus coming to the city's unappropriated balance.
Oh,
Has
yeah,
that been?
Absolutely. That's what we're talking about the whole time, is their,
Theirs.
not our.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Has that been considered, Steve?
We haven't discussed that. We talked about their carrier, the legends carrier. They do keep them separate in the auditor's office. And I did have one of my board members ask that at the last meeting. He said, and I don't mind coming to council. He said, instead of going back to council every 3 or 4 months, why don't we just appropriate, say, $100,000 that carrier, or you did say like a percentage, 40% in January. That way the money's there. And then, maybe by June, if something happens, we can get some improvements done. Or something, catastrophic happens, we have to come back. But, I don't, and I'd like to ask you that now. It sounds like that would be an okay thing for us to do. We haven't done it in the past, but do it up front.
I would think that would be something that you have the option to present to council, because that can be discussed.
Sure.
You're saying your carryover though, not cities.
No, not, well, if you're offering that, we can do it.
It's a similar concept as what we just said with the law records, right? I mean, it's budgeted for 55. If that were to be approved by this council, we would in January have to appropriate 35 in order to cover it. Same concept here.
I have a question on the salary lines of the legends. It shows that you had an initial budget of $375,000, but you spent in 2019 $401,164, and now you're requesting less than that at $387. So what happened, and where did those funds come from?
That was not my budget. My budget, if you look, I was requesting $430,000. On the spreadsheet I gave you.
Okay, I'm looking at the budget that we'd be approving.
So, yeah, but I have that budget alongside mine just to show you the difference.
So Kelly requested 430, the auditors are putting in 380.
Okay, so that's the difference.
So that's where cash carryover would be used and not line amongst many of the other lines.
And like I said, we can invite the auditor in to explain her reasoning for this in all fairness.
I think legally, okay, we know we're going to have a carryover. If we determined that we wanted to increase our budget and use part of that carryover, we could approve that budget.
That's where I think Steve and his.
Yeah,
board should
and
be
I'm
approving
talking
that.
about ours, yeah, and he told them to do that, but I think we can do that also. I mean, if we definitely are concerned that the mayor's not responding to what we're asking for, if we say we want a certain street project, we can budget part of that carryover. We know there's going to be a $2 or $3 million, maybe $4 million carryover. We don't know exactly what it is, but I mean, it's there. We don't have to wait till March to.
We can do that at the first meeting in January if we want.
We can do it right now if we want.
Steve, I'm guessing your board is going to be considering Carrie's request, is that correct? Where your carryover or an amount that she would need to have an increase in her budget would be something that your board would be considering.
When we had our budget meetings in September, we were, Carrie proposed this. And and we met with, I believe, Debbie Bonk was there that day. And a week or two later, I was told this was what was going to be certified. Regardless of what we put, this was the certification. So then we had to go back through and, obviously make some changes. So in our board meeting, the board approved what we were told. The board approved what was certified. Okay. I can tell you, they wanted to know, they had questions of why, and I believe Lori spoke to them, and the auditor's office spoke to them. This was a certification, so we had to go with what was certified. That's why the question was then brought up, well, why can't in January we just say we want to take 40% of our carryover, get it appropriated immediately, that way it's there, so you don't have to keep going back. So we were given a number, as they were discussing. And I think this is 3 years from now. They give us a number, and if it's different from what I had, we have to make some changes.
What do you expect your carryover to be in 2019?
I have, on the second page, I have a projected just through October. We have $163,000 profit, just through October, with operations, of course. So, I think we're going to be sitting about 130 to 150,000. I have to see what we're going to bring in November, and then, of course, December.
I guess I was talking about the entire Parks and Rec.
The entire Parks and Rec is at about $1 million over the years. That's why we plan on, getting some projects done and enhancing our parks and taking care of our park buildings. And that's You know, you all know where I've come from. I'll turn a nickel into a dime real quick. But with that being said, I believe we also owe it to our community to use some of that in a very positive way for our parks and recreation department.
I think the easiest answer at this point is, I don't think anybody's arguing with their estimates and the validity of the request without being able to speak with the auditor to hear her side of why she felt that this number was more appropriate. It's hard for us to proceed, so we're just have to invite her in. We do have one more work session before then, so we can invite her in for that. And go ahead and join us at that time as well. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. Any other budget presentations that you have for tonight? There are no other budget presentations. Are there any questions or discussion? Mr. Gray?
Yeah, question from Steve. So we talked about you had some projects in mind for next year. Anything for Reservoir Park?
We are going to do a survey. And I apologize, we haven't put that out in the paper yet. Our board decided in October, I'm sorry?
It's on social media.
Yeah. We will do a survey for Reservoir Park. It will, your options will be, option 1 will be leave it a stream and enhance the surroundings of that. Option 2 will be build a pond up to 50 acre-feet. I can tell you in my discussions with ODNR on what the regulation would be, how we could keep them away from Massillon, especially the lady, Mia Kinnick is her name, she mentioned to me, she said, I really love my job, but if I don't have to go back to Massillon because you guys aren't under our jurisdiction, we would really like that. So up to a 50 acre-foot pond, that means 5 acres surface area up to 10 feet deep. Now that's the maximum. They also recommended that we didn't go to the maximum, maybe do a 30 acre, 30 acre feet or 40 or 20, whichever we deem fit. That being said, we're going to do that survey and we'll see what comes of it. And I think we need to follow that survey. We're going to do it on Google surveys as the high school did that, or the Massillon City School District just did theirs. But we're also going to do it in person at the rec center. I talked to Mr. Salvino about that survey. He said about 4 years ago they did a survey, paid $12,000 and got 400 people to respond. They did this survey, it didn't cost them anything, they got 400 people to respond. I'd like to see about 1,000 people respond. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. I really would though. And whichever way they determine, everybody has to accept that. Our board has accepted that to go with this. So, there's been a lot of name calling the last few years about what happened up there. I think it's important that we're letting the community decide what's going to happen. And either way it goes, everybody else has to accept that. Whether it's build a pond, the other people have to accept it. If it's keep a stream, they have to accept it as well. That's where we're at. That'll be out this week. I'm actually going to talk to the Independent tomorrow to get that in the paper and advertise it for about a week, 7 to 10 days, and start the survey.
How about Stadium Park?
I don't have any plans right there, except to mow leaves about half the year and keep it clean. We have the pavilion, we redid the pavilion up there. I don't know if you noticed, we painted the outdoor pavilion, cleaned it up, and I think the kids have stopped painting on it right now. We want to do a little bit more work down at the amphitheater. There have been a couple of rental requests up there, so we've touched on it, but again, there's another one of those buildings that needs a little more than a little bit of work to it.
With the survey, is there a price associated with?
Yes. The price for the pond, and I've gotten 2 estimates from different excavators, about $250,000 to dig the pond. Before we do, say it comes back to, the survey comes back and we want to build a pond, we have to do a geological survey. We have to hire someone to do that as well. And so approximately $300,000, give or take, either way, you never know what you get into. To keep it, and then to maintain it about $30,000 to $40,000 a year, because we want to make sure we're saying that we're going to get that dredged every 8 to 10 years. so there's no issues. Then the other way, if it's just a stream, I'm estimating about $20,000 a year to maintain what's up there, keep it clean, maybe do some excavation, but not a whole lot up there with that, not a whole lot of excavation. So those prices will be on there. You know, it's not a whole, it's a lot of money, but it's not, out of, what we do with this.
Steve, is there any parameters on who can vote?
Yes, you have to be a Massillon city taxpayer. You have to fill out a form, you're gonna have to fill out your name, address, state your, and email, and then you have to mark if you're a Massillon city taxpayer. And then that is the same thing the schools did, they asked, I think the questions were a little different, but they had to go through everybody's address to make sure they lived in the school district. This is gonna be a little easier, I think, for us, where they're, if they live in the city and they're a taxpayer, city taxpayer, because they pay the tax.
That's all we got. That's all I have, Mr. Baker.
Anybody have anything else?
I think the only